What's up, YouTube? Demordred here. I'm going to be using some stock footage from my stream to talk about critical wounds, death, and healing in Thea the Awakening. So first, what is critical wounds? Well, when your character takes damage to the point that their health is equal to or less than 30% of their maximum health, they are now considered critically wounded. So if you had, say, 10 base health, and you drop down to 3 health, you are now critically wounded. Critically wounded has the adverse effect that for every turn that a character is critically wounded, they have to go through a death check before the healing effect goes into play. And if they fail that death check, then that character dies. So, for a death check, it is calculated differently depending on whether or not you are using bloodbath or not in the difficulty settings. So first we're going to look at the calculations if you are not using bloodbath. First thing that's calculated is the wound scale, which is you take the number of wounds that you've acquired and divide that by the total max health that that character has. After you found your wound scale, you then calculate your live chance. Every character in the game has a base chance to survive of 70%. Then on top of that, you add in the medic skill from your best medic, and it's only your best medic. You cannot combine multiple medics on one team to try to increase your value. So that calculation is 0.01 times your medic skill, which is a percentage for each skill. If you have 5 medic skill, that's an extra 5%. You would add that to the base 70% survival rate. Once you have that calculation, you subtract that live chance from the wound scale. Then the game calculates a random number between 0 and 1. If that number is less than the value that you got from subtracting your live chance from your wound scale, that character dies. If it's greater, that character survives that turn, and then they go into the healing mode. This will happen every turn that a character is critically wounded, so it's something to keep in mind. Now, the calculation is slightly different if you do have bloodbath turned on. The wound scale is still the same. You take the number of wounds divided by that character's maximum life. Just keep in mind, with bloodbath, your wounds could exceed your maximum life. So your life could be 10, but you have 20 wounds, in which case your wound scale is 2. After that, you now calculate your live chance. This is where the calculation changes slightly because of bloodbath. During bloodbath, you actually take the top 2 medics in your group and do a calculation. And the way that works is your live chance is now a 1 instead of a 0.7. And you take 0.02 times your top medic's skill and 0.01 of your second best medic skill, and add all of those together. So let's say that both your medics have a skill of 3. Then you would do 1 plus 0.06 plus 0.03, which gives you a total of 1.09. And then you would take that value and subtract it from your wound scale. So with the earlier example, if you had a wound scale of 2, you would subtract 1.09, and that gives you a 91% chance to die that turn, which means you need to hope that the random number generator rolls a 92 to 100. Otherwise, that character dies. So, moving on from that, after the death check has failed and your character has survived, then the healing effect goes into play. And the way this works is, if your character is in an expedition with food, they heal 1 wound per turn. If the character is at home or is in an expedition that is camping and has both food and fuel, but less than 9 different types of food being consumed, they heal 3 wounds per turn. There are some bonuses that will apply to this as well, in that for every 10 health over 1 that a character has, they heal an additional 1 wound while camping. So that means if the character has 11 health, they'll heal the 3 that's base plus 1 more because of that extra health. Additionally, if you have 9 or more different types of food being consumed by your expedition or your home, that adds another 1 wound healed per turn while camping. Finally, for your home, if you have a herbalist hut, you can get an additional 1 to 5 wounds healed per turn depending on the quality of the hut that you've built. The last thing that I should mention is if you have no food, whether it be in your home or in your expeditionary party, you're no longer healing wounds, you're going to gain 1 wound per turn. So it's not that big of a deal. That means you can usually let your people starve for a couple turns if you really needed to while you collected food, but it is something to keep in mind that there is no longer any healing and instead people are gaining wounds. So if you have somebody that's critically wounded, you do not want them to be starving. Otherwise, you're just almost guaranteeing your chance of them dying. The final thing that I'm going to mention, going back to the death check, if you have a medic with a skill of 30 or higher and Bloodbath is turned off, your team is literally invincible because you have a base survival rate of 70% plus the medic skill of 30% gives you a survival rate of 100%. So that's something to keep in mind in future playthroughs. If you have Bloodbath turned off, a medic of 30, you're in God mode at that point. Now, don't get me wrong, medic of 30 is still going to be awesome in a Bloodbath mode because that's going to give you your base 1% or 100% chance to survival plus the 60% for the top medic plus whatever your secondary medic is going to be. But if you are over wounded, that's still going to give you potentially a 30 plus chance percent of that character dying. So just something to keep in mind. But I hope this video was informative for you, letting you know how the death check actually works, how medic skill calculates into that, and how the healing check works. If you liked the video, go ahead and click that like button. Give me a comment, good, bad, or indifferent. I really appreciate it. It helps me improve on this skill. And finally, if you want to see future content, go ahead and click that subscribe button to get future notifications. This is Demordred playing Thea the Awakening. Thank you for watching.